Welcome to Grade 1 View, the podcast for future CRNAs by future CRNAs. A new series of Beyond the Mask supported by AANA.
Whether you're about to graduate from a nurse anesthesia program, trying to get accepted to nursing school, or you're somewhere in between.
This podcast is a resource and safe space for all things nurse anesthesia.
We're your host team. I'm Kevin Chem.
I'm Olivia Kahn.
I'm Charity Garno.
And I'm Larry Sears. So grab your Mac or your Miller, turn up your flows, and get ready, because this is Grade 1 View.
Welcome back to Grade 1 View. This is Kevin, and I'm joined here with my two former classmates in a very special episode of Grade 1 View where it's just me hosting, and I'm so nervous. We're going to get so vulnerable and emotional in this episode. I have my two friends here again, Madison, who is a 35-year-old nurse, originally from Auburn, War Eagle, who lives in Atlanta, just finished school and passed boards. She has a healthcare background of being a MICU nurse for 10 plus years and doing some travel nursing before school. She was working during school too, which I didn't do that. And then we also have Nicole, a 37-year-old mom of two boys who lives in Aiken, South Carolina, who also just finished school and passed boards. She's got a diverse healthcare background of being a surgical tech, an OR circulating nurse, and a MICU nurse. I thank both of you for not having paragraph-long academic backgrounds like my usual guests. Not that that's bad, but it's just a different refresher. So Nicole, Madison, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely. So I just want to start, simple question, backstories, why CRNA? Maybe, I think we all three of us just coming from different diverse backgrounds can kind of, I think we all have something for everybody with this. So maybe, Madison, why don't you go first? Tell me what your backstory was, what made you decide to be a CRNA?
I knew kind of early on that I wanted to do something science background. I initially wanted to be a vet, to be quite honest. I loved animals. I did horseback riding, but I quickly realized I couldn't talk to my patients, couldn't tell them kind of why I was doing what I was doing. And so then I decided, maybe something in healthcare, and was actually pre-med, but also quickly realized I didn't want to be in school forever. Isn't that ironic? And Auburn was actually starting to admit students in both spring and fall for their nursing program. So I was able to get in the spring, and that's how I became a nurse.
That's awesome. How about you, Nicole?
So people ask me this question, and my answer is that CRNA actually found me because until I was about 22, 23 years old, I didn't even know what a CRNA was. So my background, I was more artsy, and I really wanted to do interior home design. So that's where I was headed, and life had other plans. I mean, it's been a long and winding road to get here, but I met my husband pretty young, and he was in the military. He graduated from a military academy, so I knew I was going to be moving a lot, possibly being married to him. So I kind of centered on healthcare or teaching, and landed in a surgical tech program. And right out of school, my first job, I worked with an amazing CRNA. And that is when I found out, wow, that is an amazing job. I want that job. So that's what lit the fire all those years ago.
That's awesome.
I kind of realized I only got to the nurse part of my story.
Go ahead, keep going. I just was like, that's awesome. Next question.
When I started in healthcare, a good friend of ours was a general surgeon, and I got the opportunity to shadow him in the OR. So I kind of got to see, this was still kind of when I was pre-med, but I think like Nicole, I got the opportunity to interact with the CRNA. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty nice gig. I love being in the OR and, using nursing skills. And then in nursing school, we had an elective perioperative nursing. And I once again got the opportunity to work with a CRNA, kind of see what they do. So I knew when I started my nursing career, that was kind of the path I wanted to take. So for me, I've known for a long time, I guess, as opposed to you, Nicole, but like yours, a very long journey to get here.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I never would have thought in a million years that I would end up here. Obviously, I'm so thankful that I did. But yeah, I remember working in the OR and loving it, never thinking in a million years that I could do that, because I used to think, oh, ew, blood, gross, there's no way I could do that. And then I loved it. So I just did. And like I said, my first job out of surg tech school was at a little surgery center in Meridian, Mississippi. And those people were amazing. They were families to me. And then my husband finished flight school, and we moved to California. And I took a job at a level 1 trauma center in downtown Fresno, which was a complete culture shock from where I had been working. Again, I met a really good group of CRNAs. One of them was a good friend of mine, and I remember we'd be in these really long, the surgeon I used to work for primarily did a lot of Whipple surgeries. And this is back in 2012, 2013, when Da Vinci was just the new up-and-coming thing, robotic surgery. So he'd do a lot of robot, but not his Whipples. So his Whipples were anywhere from 9 to 12 hours long. And I'd be standing there, and he loved listening to techno music. That was his thing. And I just remember looking over the drape at my CRNA friend, and I remember specifically around Christmas time, and he just on his phone, Christmas shopping. He's like, "You want my job?" And I'm just, "Oh, yes, I do. I want your job."
He didn't bring up how long it took, did he?
No, he didn't. He had I remember in the break room, he wrote out my little roadmap on a napkin and said, "This is what you need to do." But yeah, just took me, what was that, 13 years later? So here I am.
That ain't that long, really. Well, life is the longest journey we go through.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
fine. I bet it kind of felt fast, didn't it? For both of y'all.
And somebody told me a long time ago, and it's true. The joy is in the journey. I believe that. I wouldn't be here and where I am and who I am without it, with all the roadblocks along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Meridian, that's so funny. I drove through Meridian. From Georgia to Arizona,
Yeah,
I drove
speaking of
through
the joy of the
Meridian.
journey, Kevin,
Yeah.
3 days on the road to get to
Yeah.
your final destination.
28-hour drive in my crappy little sports car, but it was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh because I graduated nursing school in August in 2013, and then I graduated, CRNA school in August of 2025. So 12 years between my graduations. It is like I blinked and I've gotten here. I do remember those years of not being in school, and then I don't know about y'all, that first year was the most slog, I feel like. It just, I think the being online and being in didactic and no hands-on stuff really, but I remember telling people I'm going to finish and I'm going to think it was, I'm going to turn around and be like, wow, those 3 years flew by. And that's what I feel like. You said I was a nurse. I'm still a nurse. I actually worked a shift yesterday.
No, thank you.
Wow, look at you.
Yes. I very fortunately have worked in the same unit for 10 years and they've been very accommodating, but a lot of them have said, wow, it went by so fast. And I think now I feel that way, but in the thick of it, sometimes I was like, oh my goodness, this is never going to end. But yes, very thankful to be at the end of the journey, starting, the next journey of making a career.
So what do you guys think? I mean, this is not even in the script, but in terms of gap years and, right? Because I kind of just put my head down and went through, and I really didn't live that much of a life. So I'm just figuring out how to cook and stuff now, which has been very interesting.
You texted me that and I laughed. I laughed out loud.
Yeah, I'm marinating chicken. I'm like, what does that even mean? Let's just, I don't know.
It's funny you say that. A nurse, when I was working yesterday, was kind of asking me, people say it's the hardest thing you ever do. And I've had this question a lot. And I say, you know what? For me personally, I am single. I have no kids, no really responsibilities other than to myself. I think because I had such a long period between school and I travel nursed, I was making, good money. I had much all this schedule flexibility. My life was my own. That transition from that to now I'm having to be told where to be every moment of the day for 3 years, plus obviously going full time, not making any money. That to me was the harder transition as opposed to the subject matter or the clinical itself. And I think also for the clinical side, we interact with a lot of personalities that are very strong, whether it be your preceptor, the surgeon, OR nurses or staff. And I think the 10 years of ICU experience, having to do that as a nurse and to get really confident in my ability helped me, I think, more than maybe some of the other students that didn't have as much time as a nurse or are younger. And not that you can't have the same level of confidence. I think that was a plus for me. I can look back and think that really helped my journey. I was able to kind of go with the flow, be flexible and capable in situations that were maybe a little more high stress. Of course, I wish I would have gotten in school sooner, but I lived, as you said, a lot of life between graduating nursing school and graduating school now.
Yeah, you've been you've had traveled the world already, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate in school to study abroad. Like Nicole, my parents took me to Europe in high school, when I was younger. So that I'd already had a foundation of I wanted to travel, and I've gone to 4 of the 7 continents. So I still have a few I want to hit. So I'm hoping with this schedule and this new career and, some of the opportunities I'll be able to do that. But very fortunate that I think, again, you wish it could have happened at a different time, but I do think some things happen for a reason. And I can look back and be like, I wouldn't have gone to this trip or met these people or had these experiences. So I tried to look at everything, the timing with it, as much of a, silver lining as I could.
Yeah. How about you, Nicole? I'm curious how the kids, come into play too. That's a very valuable perspective, that we can learn from, I feel like. And what do you think's harder, having a kid or going through CRNA school?
You know what? They're challenging in their own unique way, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I got married very young. I had just turned 22 when my husband and I got married. I had my first son at 25 and I had my second son at 27. So they're just under 2 years apart. They're 23 months apart. But, at the time and that stage of our life, my husband's career was the driving force. He was active duty military. He was owned by the Navy. We had no decision in that matter. It was, this is what you're doing, and too bad if you don't like it, pretty much. And when I got married so young, I knew that I was marrying into that lifestyle. I didn't grow up around a military family or anything, so it was all new to me. But that was uniquely challenging, that I felt like I was a single parent a lot of the time, because he flew F-18s. That's what he did. And how their cycle works is that they do workup cycles and then they go on a deployment. So even when they're home, they're not always home. They're actually rarely home, because they go to different places where they do different types of training, and then that's part of their workup cycle, and then they deploy. The saving grace for me during that time was definitely my family, my mom and my grandma. My grandma lived with us for a majority of the time while my kids were young, and she was a huge support system for us, and I couldn't have done it without her. But so the kids, and they're kind of always been with me along this journey, because I went back and started my prereqs to get into nursing school when my youngest son was still very young. So they've kind of always known me to be in school.
That's wild.
So they've been along for the ride, it's been interesting. There's been obviously time away that I wish I could have back. That, to me, time is the most important thing. That is the number one reason I chose this career, for the time and the flexibility that it allows, and also to be able to provide my family with a good life. But so obviously there's time that I miss that I wish I could have back. But they've been so great and so understanding, and they've been able to see that process of where I started and where I finished, and they've seen me work really hard. So I think being a parent is pretty difficult, but the most rewarding things. School's challenging. Like Madison said, you have to deal with all types of personalities. The hardest part of school for me was clinical. Everybody said, clinical's going to be the best part. You're going to love it. And I did. I loved it. But it was hard. I was exhausted every day, day in, day out. One day you do something this way, the next day that's absolutely wrong. Why would you ever do that? So it was a little bit of whiplash, but I had the benefit of being in the OR quite a bit before as a surg tech and as an OR nurse. So I was used to that environment. Thank goodness. So the personalities and things that come along with it, that was what I was used to. So it's all good.
I think a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, you're going to be done when you're like 28, but like, it was an uphill battle in clinical. You don't know how to like talk to people. And I don't know, the first time you get stepped up to, I mean, sure, like a year or two of ICU nursing, it helps. I think definitely having more experience under your belt definitely like does add some value. And everyone, like you said, everyone's journey is different, and, they all come with their own set of challenges. And I just, in the interest of time, because we're covering a lot of things, I do want to talk about the application cycle, just because I know that's like the hot button topic everyone asks. If you could tell yourself one thing, or if you could look back on one thing with the application cycle, what is your guys' like, pivotal, I guess, moment? What would you tell yourself back in the past about your application cycle and your application journey? Madison, I know you had quite the journey, correct?
Oh, yeah. So that's what, unfortunately, you cannot go back. And if I could go back and tell 18-year-old me something, I would say something along the lines of, college matters. Please make good grades now. It will pay off in dividends in the future. But again, if I had gotten into nursing school before I did, I wouldn't have met the friends I moved to Atlanta with. I don't know that I would have gotten the job I'm with. So I'm trying to, again, look at all those things. But I would say get your CCR in as soon as you can for ICU nurses. I know that's like, it's not required, but for someone like me, like if you're a football fan, you know that the 2010 Auburn season was a really big one. And that was the worst semester in college for me, because I was going to every home and away game, including the national championship. So those grades followed me through a lot of this application. So I would say they weren't requirements, but they were unfortunately organic chemistry and biochemistry. And if you have tried, if you know anything about CRNA school, they tell you how important organic chemistry is. The thing is, I would try, if you have some, especially science grades that are not the best, try to retake those, maybe look into taking a graduate level class, and then really do get organized so that, because every school cycle is so different, that having all of your resume, your transcripts, all of that stuff readily accessible so you can apply quickly, and just being diligent and making sure you're researching when schools, have some change. I mean, I know Augusta has changed. I applied 3 times. And so they have changed when their application was due in those 3 times. So I think it's something you have to just stay really diligent and on top of. But that's my biggest piece of advice. And just to reach out to programs. I mean, I think it can be very daunting and you don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I know for a fact for schools that I did not get into, I would reach out, if not to the program director, at least to someone. I try to get emails when I interviewed just to say, hey, can you give me some advice? And I think it paid off. I don't know. Here we are. I've graduated.
Well, what would you say to someone who is just oh God, you apply and it's you get rejected? How do you come back from that?
I basically knew going in, again, the grades thing, I knew it was going to be, as you said, an uphill battle. I think, again, a no is not a no, it's a not yet is the best piece. I mean, I know friends of mine who are trying, and I, as someone who has gone through this journey, and I took my CCRN in 2017, or I took the GRE and the CCRN in the fall of 2017, and the GRE is good for 5 years. And I told myself if I did not get in by the time my GRE was bad, that I was only going to apply to schools that didn't require it, because that test is a mess. But I'm just keep going, keep trying. I mean, again, it will happen in the time it's supposed to. And I do also tell my friends who are trying and they get rejected, I say, live life then. You're not going to get in now. That just means it's a not right now. So go to Europe, go on this trip, do the things you want to do, because hopefully when you get in, that will slow down for those 3 years. But that's what I would say. And that's what I do say.
There you go. What about you, Nicole? What tidbits do you have?
I agree with Madison. Definitely don't give up if it doesn't happen the first time or the second time or the third time. If it's something that you really want and you dedicate yourself to it, don't give up on that. I think that for me, a good thing to learn is how to write well. For our application, we had to write an essay, a professional statement essay, I believe. And everybody around you is going to be in a similar boat. Most of us had a pretty decent GPA. We're all, intensive care nurses. We all are type A personality, driven, competitive, all the things. And it's really hard when you're in that kind of a pressure cooker situation to authentically be yourself and be able to share that in a page-long essay, because those are the kind of things that stand out. So, volunteer, do things that genuinely make you happy, that are obviously making you a more well-rounded person, because I think a lot of CRNA schools, of course they want the brightest and the best, but they also want people who are going to give back to the profession and be advocates and represent the profession well throughout the longevity of their career. It's not just how good is your GPA on paper, what is your GRE, it's who you are. And so being able to express that in your writing and your essay, if your school is asking for that, I think that's, things to take consideration to, because I feel like if they have a stack of applications and they're sorting through them, it's what's going to stand out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's going to be this needle in the haystack that's really going to shine? And I've heard people's stories that they didn't have the best GPA, but they had, a lot of experience or different types of experience, and they did really well. Once they got in, they did really well in the program. So, yeah, I think that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been even in the interviews, I was if they like me, they like me. And if they don't, they don't. But I'm going to be myself, and I wouldn't want to be at a program where they don't like me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that you try to fit yourself into that box. You want to present yourself in the best way, but you also want to authentically be yourself, because that's what they're looking for. I remember our program director saying, actually, Madison, I don't know if you remember this. We sat at the same exact table on interview day.
I have you, me, Jaden. I think Kevin was there.
I was in the corner with KJ. Yeah.
Garrett.
Yes.
Yeah.
I literally have a list of people at our table, because I was like, I'm going to remember these people, because I was like, it's going to happen.
And you sure
I can
did.
feel it. Well, I walked in the interview with the panel and they were like, welcome back. And I literally said, third time, it's the charm, right?
Yep.
again, I wasn't trying to be insincere, but I was trying to like, look, I had taken all these classes. I had shined the diamond of myself as much as I could. I was like, this is it. This is what we got. It's a yes or no.
I remember our program director saying that, you're all qualified to be here. So come in here and show us who you are. We want to know. We want to know who you are.
It's crazy what programs have to deal with now because in my committees, I work with program directors and it's like the AI is like ridiculous. And like, if you don't think that they can tell that it's AI, they know it's AI. So please don't use it.
ChatGPT to write your entrance essay.
Yeah, don't do that.
No. Several of our classmates have we got to download ChatGPT. I still have it. I'm kind of the person that goes against the grain a little bit. I won't. AI scares me a little bit. I know it's the thing, but I'm sure they can tell. And I'm sure there's going to be a program that's developed to be able to detect and say, no.
Oh, there definitely, there is. And that's the thing. They use ChatGPT or they, pay someone a bunch of money to give them basically a script. And it's like, they know that they've heard it all the time. You really do have to be your genuine self. I mean, like I've heard of online interviews where like, they're like, you can tell that people are like looking up what to say or something like that, or like, it's very disingenuous to do something like that. So I feel like at the end of the day, like, why would I want to get in on a shortcut?
The piece of it too is like, yes, they see you on paper. That paper does not show your emotional intelligence. That's why I tell like the other advice would be like practice interviewing. It's one thing to tell a little bit about yourself, XYZ. Oh, can you tell us about this bad grade? That's fine. But like you have to be able to talk through situations you've been in. And that's like, I think unless you practice, like, let's be honest, you got the question, like, tell me a time you and a doctor disagreed. Like I'm like, if I sat here and thought, I'm probably sure I have an example in clinical, but it's something I sat and like practiced because as genuine as you want to try to be, there is a element of like, you have to have those things in your pocket ready to go. You can't, always wing it. I mean, maybe some can, they're better qualified to interview than I am, but the emotional intelligence factor is very important. And I do think, unfortunately, some people who are a little shyer or a little more awkward, like you need to then just practice speaking to strangers, I suppose. But I do feel like most of the people, like I said, we met at our interview, I think they did a good job of picking good personalities for our class. There's some definitely stronger ones, but I felt like it was a good mix. Everybody brought something a little different to the table, which was nice.
So you get into school, right? And now it's just the slog of like going through and balancing, life and school at the same time, because as we learned, life doesn't stop for school at all, right? So I want to hear from each of you, like, if you had a moment where things were challenging throughout school, like what your hard moment was and how you kind of powered through that. And I guess how in general you balanced school with life.
Mine answer is going to be a lot shorter than Nicole's. Again, just me. I will say I very fortunately felt like I had really good balance. For me personally, living in Atlanta, Augusta was not far. And I was able, there were obviously things I missed out on just for the sheer fact of you are in school. But this program, the location, it worked out for me well. But that is a very unique situation, I would say. Like you, Kevin, some people came from very far away, were very far away from anything they knew. But so my answer is it worked out great.
Good. Did you have a moment where it was like challenging for you at all?
Yeah, I unfortunately had to put my dog down of like 13 years. And he had been living with my parents, and it worked out because we were in that first stretch of clinical. And I don't know if y'all remember summer of last year, but that was I like dissociated. I feel like I like would go to clinical, come home, do the schoolwork, and then like would do it for 5 days in a row and then be like, oh my gosh, like it's already Saturday. And it just, but that was probably the hardest stretch of school for me. He very fortunately, I was able to be with him, which it happened on a Memorial Day, which it was very challenging, but I'm blessed by the busyness of clinical because it didn't give me time to really like not mourn, but just really sink into that sadness. When I was in nursing school, I said, you have to be with me till I get married, get into grad school, or have a kid. And he did. He made it till I got into grad school.
Yeah.
So besides that, I was very fortunate. So I think it's a do your best. You can be as involved in life outside of school as you want. And just try to remember it is not the end all be all for me.
That makes sense. I think I definitely resonate with like the not being able to mourn because you're in school. That's like that's tough, man.
You just, yeah, I just
Yeah.
teared up a little bit. I mean, I got my tattoo to remember him by, but
Well,
I know that several of
Yeah.
our classmates went through very, very challenging things, and you can only do so much for other people going through something. And so I tried to, and I know Nicole did a lot of things for our classmates who lost family during school. So applause to Mama Nicole here, taking care of everybody,
absolutely.
including her family. But yeah, you got it just powering through. I mean, that sounds terrible. And I had time to but I think it was a blessing in disguise to not be able to wallow. So that's my experience with that.
How about you, Nicole?
Oh, Kevin, this is the vulnerable part. I mean, I'll be real and I'll be very honest. I feel like, honestly, the last couple of weeks after passing boards, going on a little trip with my family, I feel like I've got hit by a freight train. Kind of the things that have happened in the last 3 years that you really haven't been able to process. And you kind of sit back and think, what just happened?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going through that grieving process a little bit with some things that happened in my personal life. And it's definitely been a journey. But the personal side, as far as my family, it's always hard with my kids. You say, okay, having kids going through the program, kind of shifting and focusing on what their needs are and my husband's needs. And we're trying to work together as a team to have the most flexibility so that our family dynamic doesn't suffer. But the reality is that it does suffer. The kids go through stages where dad's here more. We're used to having mom home. We don't like this new dynamic. They kind of pin the parents against each other. There's conflict. My husband, he leaves, he goes away to work. He doesn't work here locally, so he still flies for the Navy, and then he also flies for another airline, his civilian job. So when he's gone to work, he's gone. And so that kind of coming and going and all the schedules and all the things to keep our kids' lives as normal as possible and all the things that they're involved in and their sports and their golfing and their friends and and we also homeschool on top of all that. So
I was like, please bring that up, because I was like, I need the world to know this woman also homeschooled her kids while in school or film.
yes, and we still homeschool, So, and we do a program where they go to school once a week, and I teach in that. I did that not our last year and a half of clinical, but our second year, I did still teach one of my son's classes. So yeah, there's always those responsibilities that you feel are a priority outside of anything that as a parent you have going on. And I wanted to make that as seamless as possible. But yeah, so personally, we went through that, and as a family, we made it across the finish line. And my husband keeps saying, it's so nice having you back. Yeah. And I haven't really ever realized that, because we've been able to just go on walks, go on trips, and I don't feel this ticking time bomb in my head about, okay, it's enough time. I have to go study or I have stuff to do. Always feeling that anxiety of, I have to be doing something for school right now and I'm not doing it. So I'm going to have so much to catch up to do. And then my dad last year, right when we were getting ready to start clinical in the summer, he had been really sick. He was diagnosed with liver cancer. Long story short, he ended up needing a liver transplant. He came and lived with us, and we went through that whole process. It was a huge blessing that by the time he got listed was middle of July, and he got his liver middle of August of last year. So we just celebrated his 1 year anniversary of his liver, and that was a wild ride, but he's doing fantastic. He hasn't had any rejection issues whatsoever. And then again, life just keeps chugging on. And my grandma, that when I told you that lived with me and helped me with my kids basically from day one, she was really my support system and the person I went to when anything got hard in my life. And she passed away July 17th. So yeah.
Oh, sorry to hear
Sorry,
that.
it's been a road.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just school never stopped during that either. Like you just,
No.
I mean, our school is very supportive, but like you only have so many days off,
True. And I couldn't have done it without our faculty. I mean, they were amazing. Obviously, within the restrictions that are put on them, because there are rules and you have to have, you can't miss so many days or you have to have so many hours. But anything that they could do to make it better, they did. So yeah. And it's kind of weird because you guys know our program. We had the opportunity to graduate in May and walk, at the actual university graduation. And then we had our program celebration in the end of July. So I was so blessed and fortunate that grandma actually made it to the main one. So that was really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just remember, like, again, this, I always talk about this. People are tired of hearing about Kevin's breakup, but like,
No, Kevin, let it
oh
go.
my
You gotta go through
gosh,
it.
you know, like, I will never forget it. It was our last semester of didactic, and like,
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out what a dermatome was. And, you know, I was too busy and I wasn't being a good partner. And one day she just left. And, you know, I remember there was like 5 a.m. and we would meet before like sim, and like I just wanted to stay home and cry. And I like, you know, but you have to like pretend and you have to keep going in and, you know, crying in the lab with Caroline and Nada. And then, you know, I remember just like crying in the library, just trying to study the night before. And Madison like sent me a little study guide. And I was like, that's so, you know, and I still failed, but you know, I almost made it,
You can't go through it for them, but you do your best for what
you
you
know.
can.
And then you had Nicole and Jaden and Caroline came over, and like I remember it was like I will never forget like the last day she was here, because I was sleeping on the couch and it was just her silhouette leaving for her last shift, and you guys like came in and just threw all of her crap away. And you know, I just it hurt a lot, you know, because yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how strenuous this can be on a relationship. And, you know, my one thing, if I could go back in time, and whenever some RN reaches out to me and asks me for advice, I tell them, like, you make sure your person is 100% in it, and or they know the expectations, and you make sure that even though you're in school, you're helping out. That balance is tough. And then, you know, my grandpa died while I was in the OR, and I remember feeling my legs go out from underneath me. And then I was at the funeral, and I was like, damn, I wish my ex was here because I could use the comfort. And it was bad. It was bad, man. You know, again, the faculty were very supportive, and like I went to the school therapists and all that. But like at the end of the day, like it was right after clinical and we graduated and we passed boards, is that it's been like I've been able to really like process. And it's like so weird because it feels so delayed, man. You know, it's like 2 years later, but it's like we've been busy.
Yeah.
We've been busy, you know, Kevin, you brought up a really good point. You really have not had time to process it. I remember in that moment you texting me and just thinking, you know, like Madison said, I was kind of the mom of the class. And that is just my personality. I like taking care of people. It doesn't matter who it is. And I feel like our class had a really strong bond, and I didn't care. You could be, I could have just, I mean, we knew each other, but in that moment, I will drop anything. I'm coming. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I was like, I'm there. What do you need from me? I'm going to lay down whatever I have going on. Like, what can I do to help you? Because, you know, you want everybody to cross the finish line and be support and feel like they're supported in doing that. So, but it's so hard, and you're not the same person now that you were then or before you started the program. And that's something that I've dealt in my own relationship. And I remember telling my husband when I'd be super cranky or stressed out or snap because I was so stressed, you have no idea what I'm going through. And I remember it's not fair to him to say that. It's the truth, that it's how I felt, because the only people that really understood were you guys, the people that were going alongside me. And so it's great to have those relationships in the class that you could talk that through and they understand what you're going through. But from his perspective on the outside looking going, he felt helpless in the sense that there's nothing I can do. Like, I just have to try and support her the best I can. But yeah, it's have that person that is your through thick and thin, ride or die.
Yeah.
Because he's seen some ugly versions of me and he's still here. So
Oh, they're not that bad.
Yeah. I'm like trying to picture it. I'm like, I think I'd take a cranky Nicole at home over not having someone, to be quite honest.
I'll make
Because
sure
even though
you
she's
hear
cranky,
that.
I bet she's taking care of me some too. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure once this recording comes out, I'll play that on repeat.
We're gonna hold
Yes.
you to
Just
it.
remind yourself.
Another thing we are really not like told about is like, okay, between graduating and like boards and everything, you have no money and you just have to study for boards, and it's very stressful. Yeah, we took it pretty soon, me and Madison. And Nicole, you were only like 2 weeks after us, but like
Yeah, I couldn't believe you guys. I mean, I saw, you know, I don't have social media. And so,
you hear the waves.
but I hear, you know, through the grapevine, you know, our classmate, Nada or Kendall would send me a text, so-and-so passed, so-and-so passed. I get so jealous. I'm like, wow, I don't want to look at this stuff anymore.
Yep. Yep. No, I had to shut down, like, after, everyone knows this, after my, like, duties with the AANA, I completely shut everything off. And I was like, I don't want to hear about anyone passing or failing. Do not talk to me. But it's like a car crash. You kind of want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I finished clinical, I mean, not early, but early in the sense of I'd finished my OB rotation, which, was only 2 weeks. So I had those 2 weeks before technically everyone else finished. So I was already, to be fair, Kevin and then another class of ours, we really looked at each other and we were like, okay, 4 months out from graduation, like we are locking in all summer. We're doing this thing. And so I had been studying rather diligently compared to other, semesters. And then once literally like we graduated and then I had a party here that weekend and I literally looked at my family and all of my friends. I didn't get rid of social media. I didn't quite have to do that, Kevin, but I said, I no longer exist to you until this test happens. Okay. Goodbye.
Oh,
Like you thought I was gone the last 3 years. Absolutely not. Do not mess with me. And so you commit those 4, 6, 8 hours a day. And it just got to the point where I was like, I can't look at this anymore. I am losing my mind.
yeah.
And it worked out. I mean, yeah, and now really the worst of it is like the credentialing, everything's not taking so long. I'm kind of like, I'll get there when I get there. But I just mean like now we're really in the stretch of like, I have nothing to do and I have no money. So I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I guess this is my favorite spot, this, nice couch in my house where I don't have to spend any money. But yeah, I mean, there's no way to prepare for that. As I told Kevin, yes, you just go into a little bit of credit card debt. Your income will offset it. It will be fine.
It'll be just fine. Gosh.
It's a weird stretch of time right now. I like wake up and I'm like, what am I waking up for? I have nothing to do today.
Yeah. I woke up at noon. So how about you, Nicole?
Yeah, we graduated on a Thursday, and if I'm being 100% honest, I took the next week and I did a little family trip that I had planned. We met my brother and his family in Florida, and it was probably about Thursday on that trip, and I started getting antsy. Okay, this is enough time. I shouldn't have been doing this. I should have been studying. So that Saturday we got back, and I told my family, it's okay. You guys can go do whatever you want, but I'm locking myself in this room, and I'm not coming out. Like, you just can't. Like, you can't. And then, yeah, it was just under 3 weeks, I guess, 2.5 weeks of doing nothing but studying 10 to 12 hours a day.
Yes.
That is the honest truth. I mean, if I got up and brushed my teeth that day and walked outside to get some fresh air, that was a good day. It was horrible. I hated it. It was horrible.
No, that's actually very true.
I couldn't eat. I was not taking good care of myself, and I just kept going and going through stuff. And I actually studied quite a bit with, you guys will know, our classmates, Kendall and Nada, and we had a schedule and we were doing mock exams and we were reviewing questions, and then we come together and, review stuff that we felt like we needed to spend some extra time on. And I look back at that time, it's a black hole. It was not good.
It's a fever dream.
Yeah. 3 weeks gone.
Well, our classmate Kelsey and I studied, and Kevin, and then Kelsey and I passed, and then Kevin was like, please study with me. We were like, okay, we will. Like, we remember being there, buddy.
Kendall and Nada took their test on a Tuesday, and mine was on that Thursday. And I had my other friend, John, he took his on Wednesday. So everybody was taking it, and they passed. And that Wednesday night, it was not a good night for me.
No.
I could not sleep. I think I got 3 hours of sleep. I'm somebody that my head hits the pillow and I'm out. I don't ever really have a hard time going to sleep. And I couldn't. I tossed and turned, woke up at the crack of dawn, showered. I was sweaty. Armpits were so soaked wet. Like, I was shaking. Get to the test center and I just felt, this is crazy, So get a hold of yourself. You've done hard things in life. This is fine. You're going to be fine. I walk in there, the whole routine that you go through. And I remember clicking start on the exam and just starting to write down my brain dump of all the things I wanted, the brachial plexus, certain numbers and things and equations and all the things. And my hands just shaking. And I just get a hold of yourself. Sweaty. And then I was in the zone. The next time I woke up, I was on question 87.
Yeah.
Have I been reading any of these questions?
Yeah, unfortunately, your body does not know the difference between taking a test where no one dies and inducing a heart transplant, where
Yes.
pretty
Yes.
strenuous.
Yeah. So it was an emotional roller coaster. I don't know.
It's bad. I just, I'm like getting nervous thinking about it. I recommend everyone just like plan to take it as soon as possible because I remember I'm an anxious person, but like heart beating out of your chest for like 3 weeks straight, acne, palms sweaty. You can't sleep because you keep thinking about things that you like don't know yet and stuff. It's terrible. But I remember because we had studied so hard that like I was kind of like, oh, bored. It was tough, but I was like, that wasn't that bad because again, we had studied so much. I did like 15,000 practice questions. If you're prepared and you go in it, I don't know, you'll be good.
You'll be good. I mean, shout out to Jaden. You guys all know Jaden. He was my study partner throughout the program, and he was amazing. He's so talented and very smart. And some of the stuff going through it was solidifying, but I kept saying, we spent so much time on this stuff and physiology and pathophysiology and anatomy and all the things. So I know this. And it was good just to go through and just hammer that nail in a couple more times, but it's amazing how much we learn. It really is. And it's amazing how much is in there.
Will it be in there by the time I start working? We'll find out.
We'll find out.
I still do the question of the day, the core concepts.
I do too sometimes. Yes, it's on my home screen.
Yeah, that's done now.
I did my Mac checks already, so there you go.
What? No. Okay, now you're just making me feel bad.
No, get out of here.
Yeah, you did our back checks already. Okay.
Oh my
all right.
gosh.
I feel like we are so in the sphere of the AANA where I'm like, what are you going to do after graduation? Join 5 committees and try to be independent practice, yada, yada, yada. What are you guys, normal people, what are your plans? What are your life goals now that you're done being registered nurse anesthetist? I'm still thinking about the boards and how scary it was. So I'm like fumbling now.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm like, you put me back there. I'm like PTSD. My heart's like, my watch like, calm down. For me, I want to, as I've said, the many years of ICU experience gave me a lot of confidence going into a lot of clinical situations, just in the sense of like, okay, maybe from the anesthesia side, I don't know, but like from the nursing side, I know what I'm doing. And I think like, obviously that's going to take time, but a lot of people say your first year as a CRNA is like your 4th year of school. You're just going to keep learning and figuring it out. So I would like to really commit to learning this job and doing it well. I'm fortunate that the practice I'm working with does all of our skills, regional, OB, and, general surgery and things. And I want to just get good at doing those things. If that does entail getting involved in either the local, GANA here in Georgia, if it does lead to some other things, but I don't think personally I'm going to actively search them out because I also want to live life. I want to travel again. I want to enjoy this life I've worked so hard to achieve. So that's off the bat. Now, having travel nurse experience, I would like to get good at those skills to entertain the idea of traveling one day. I don't know if that will happen, but we will see how I feel. The practice I'm going to, like I said, is great. They have a lot of alumni from our school, and I think being able to rotate there clinically was such a blessing because it was not necessarily somewhere I had thought about working, but, now that I've got the job there, I want to just get very solid in those skills that we have just worked so hard to learn. So that's my goal.
What about like life goal, like outside?
Life goal, like I said, definitely traveling. 2026 is a very full year. My sister's getting married. I have other friends getting married, maybe the French Open, that kind of stuff. So I own this. I'm very fortunate to own this townhome, rent it out, maybe buy another house, rent a fun apartment somewhere. I don't know. Enjoy the life we've just worked hard for. That's essentially my life goal for the next couple of years.
How about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I second what Madison said about career-wise. I am going to be working at a place that I also very fortunately get to work in the main OR, do regional, and also learn and do OB. And that was the main reason I chose to work there, is because I get to learn and improve all of those skills. So very excited about that. And yeah, I just want to absorb as much as I can. I want to be a sponge and become the best practitioner that I can be because I really love what we do. I actually miss being in the OR. I never thought I would say that at the end of clinical. I was so ready to be done, but I miss it. I really like it. I love anesthesia. People say this all the time. It's really a mix of science and it's an art, and I love it. So I'm excited to just do more of it and get better at it. Personally, So many things that we want to do, but yeah, just spend time with my family. My kids, they're 9 and 11, soon to be 10 and 12. So I don't have that much time left with them. It sounds crazy. It goes by so fast.
They're still around.
They are,
Yeah.
but it goes by so fast. I remember when they're little babies and they're going to be 10 and 12. It's wild to me. Yeah, we love to travel. I mean, like I said, my husband and I, that was the goal. I mean, in his career and mine as well, flexibility and our time is the most important thing. So get good at that. We're planning on being in Aiken for a while. I think when our kids get older, I would also love to do some locum work and be able to go and be in some cool places for an extended period of time. But just enjoy life, Kevin. I love being outside. I want to go hiking. I want to go on some hiking trips. I want to go snow skiing. I love snow skiing. We just got back from the lake and water skiing the last couple of days, all day, every day. So just get back to being myself, having all the time to be active, exercise. I mean, all the things that are neglected when you're in school.
Horseback riding. Remember the horseback riding fiasco we had?
Fiasco? That was a fun adventure.
Well, I was like, I don't want to
okay?
go. I don't want to break my clavicle. And then in class, Dr. Wilkes was like, in Aiken, we get a lot of these clavicle fractures.
I was so glad that you guys came on that. I planned that, and I saw everybody's eyebrow raise up in the class. We're like, what is she planning now?
Yeah,
So I was,
yeah.
and I'll never forget you on Swiss, Little Miss Swiss there.
With
Madison.
She's my sassy little girl. I know. She broke my nail, which I currently have the same broken nail, but that was
Yeah.
a good time.
Enjoy all the things that I love doing. So
well, I would like to travel to all 50 states,
Ooh.
and not just like fly by, but like spend a night there, like 2
Well,
nights.
you're
there,
welcome for Alabama, buddy.
Yes, I will do that. I've done that already, and I'll be back though. I'll be back.
No, I meant
Yeah.
I'm the reason you checked off
Oh yeah,
Alabama.
that's
so.
true. I did.
Mhm.
Yeah, War
Yeah.
Eagle.
Yeah, baby.
Our ANA memberships, just FYI, because I'm that guy, we have a free year, I think. So we're members this year, and then you pay money after, but keep paying money after. I shouldn't say it like that.
Be involved in both your local and national organizations, whatever you do, because
And if you're not that involved, just, financially
I meant financially. As I said, I'm gonna take some time to,
update your email address. Yep, I just updated to my personal one, and it said, oh, and I learned actually, if you don't update your address, your dues go to whatever state that you have your old address in. So if I didn't change from Georgia to Arizona, it still would have been going to Georgia, which, wouldn't want that now, would we?
address is the same.
Oh, it's been so great talking to you guys. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be out to Arizona to visit you.
Yes, you will.
Yes.
Want to be the voice of the next season of Grade 1 View? Well, we're looking for new hosts for Season 2, launching in 2026. If you're a CRNA student or resident with at least 12 months left in your program, this is your chance to grab a mic and shape the conversation. Apply by November 1st at aana.com/G1V, or just check the description of today's show for a link. Let your voice be heard on Grade 1 View.